Okay. Okay. Good evening and welcome to Crawley Borough Council's council-owned Neighbourhood Parade Scrutiny Panel, meeting of 11th of March 2021, and I'm Councillor Bob Lanza, chair of this panel. The agenda for this meeting has been published and is available on the council's website. Members of the public and press are able to watch the meeting live, but there will be no public question time. Before I ask panel members to confirm their attendance, please will they ensure their mobile phones are switched off or on silent, their backgrounds are plain, and that they will not be disturbed. Please also ensure microphones are turned off in speaking or requesting to speak. When invited to speak, turn your camera on, unmute yourself, and check your screen is surrounded by a red box before speaking. Can I please ask the officers supporting this meeting to introduce themselves, giving their name and job title?
Hello, my name's Adam O'Sullivan and I'm the Corporate Research Officer for the Council.
Good evening, I'm Jess Tamplin, Democratic Services Support Officer.
Hello, I'm Sue Bader. I am the Asset Manager.
Karen, you're muted.
Good. Apologies. Good evening. My name's Karen Hayes and I'm Head of Corporate Finance.
Thank you, colleagues. We now proceed to items 1, 2 and 3. That's apologies for absence, disclosures of interest, whipping declarations and minutes. So we will now be taking introductions together with items 1, 2 and 3. Please can I ask panel members, when called upon by the Democratic Services Officer, to confirm the ward they represent, if they have any declarations of interest to make, if they have any whipping declarations to make, and if they approve the minutes of the previous meeting of the panel. So if we can start that process now, please.
Thank you. Councillor Ayling.
Hello, yes, I'm Councillor Marion Ayling. I'm the board member for Bewbush and Broadfield North. I have no declarations of interest, no whipping declaration, and I agree the minutes of the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lunnon, please.
I thought it'd be Bob. Good evening, I'm Councillor Tim Lunnon, representing Broadfield Ward. I have no declarations of interest. I have no whipping declarations and I approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Thank you. Apologies, it was due to be Councillor Lanza. I'll send him live now.
Okay, that's fine. I'm Councillor Bob Lanza. I represent the Pound Hill South and Worth Ward of Crawley Borough Council. I have no declarations of interest. I have no whipping declarations, and I approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morgale.
Good evening, Maureen Morgale for Tilgate Ward. I have no declarations to make, no whip declarations, and I approve minutes of the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Peck, please.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Peck and I represent Maidenbower Ward. I have no declarations of interest and no whipping declarations, and I approve the minutes of the last panel meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that everyone now? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so firstly then, in addition to those introductions, have we received any apologies for absence?
We've received no apologies.
No apologies for absence, right. So the committee agrees that the minutes of the meeting held on 2nd of February 2021 are an accurate record based upon those responses. So if we proceed to item 4 on the agenda, we've got some general updates and information which will kind of be shared between Jess and myself. And the first update relates to the extent of CCTV coverage, and members of the panel have received this, but I'd ask that we don't comment upon the detail of that coverage for obvious reasons. But some important point for crime and antisocial behaviour reporting, residents and tenants can contact the community wardens team 7 days a week between 8 AM and 9:30 PM on this telephone number 07884 492 324, and that is available on our website, of course. Also email community.wardens@crawley.gov.uk, and a search on the website under the community heading "Protecting Crawley" will give those details. The second update that I want to give comes via Councillor Peter Smith as Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development, and we thank him for this update. And this is about the Forge Wood neighbourhood parade, Forge Wood being Crawley's newest neighbourhood, of course, and he reports that the master plan for Forge Wood does include a local centre area comprising of shops with flats above, as well as a multi-use community building, a school and a health facilities building. The detailed application for the shops and the community building was approved under planning application CR/2014/0061/ARM. It is believed that the trigger for the commercial units is approaching. It is not the area currently being focused on in discussions, but developers are planning for it. Regarding the other facilities, the community centre should have been delivered by now, but developers missed the trigger point. However, it is underway and they are working positively with residents. The health centre was not finally approved. The clinical commissioning group confirmed that there is no one wishing to take it on at this point. The developers are in discussions with residents about a different community use for the site. Can I ask members of the panel if they have any questions or comments upon those two updates, please? Those first two updates. Please raise your hand. If you, not raise your hand. I'm sorry. Show your screen. Yes, Tim, Councillor Lunn.
Well, first of all, thank you to Councillor Smith for that update. It was, I think, possibly based on just a question I'd had last time on what was going to happen with the neighbourhood parade up in Forge Wood. So I guess my comment is, it sounds like it's probably not going to be. If it's been developed by the developers, is it going to be a council-owned neighbourhood parade or shops that we're going to get, or is it going to be owned privately? And if it is owned by the council, is it worth waiting a little bit longer to see what we as a scrutiny panel output as our general suggestions, to see that it can be designed around those suggestions?
Okay, thank you for that question. Can I invite Councillor Peter Smith to respond on that, please? Oh, Councillor Smith.
Yep, just for the record, we do have Councillor Smith present, so I will send him live now.
Thank you, Councillor Langer. I thought I was just observing. I don't know the answer, but I think it will be private. I'll have to go away and check again, I'm afraid. It's the arrangements on the consortium at Forge Wood are very complicated. There's 3 different parties involved. It had an unusual setup by getting approved, outlined by the government without the normal conditions, etc. I'm afraid I don't have my fingers on all the details.
No,
I will get an answer for you, Councillor Lunnan, because I always appreciate your questions.
Yeah, now don't worry, Councillor Smith. Thanks for responding as an observer, and you were caught on the hop by your colleague, which no doubt you'll discuss with him later. But anyway,
yes, very likely. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any further questions on those first 2 updates? No. Okay. In that case, I invite Jess there to just trample in to proceed with the further 3 updates. And if we pause after each of the updates for questions and comments, please, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So just based on a couple of the previous discussions that were had at the past 2 meetings of the panel, these weren't action points, but these were topics that were discussed, which were possibly to be explored further. So the first is it was mentioned that it might be helpful to get to grips with how much information is given to parade tenants in terms of the business support and advice they are offered. So the Economic Regeneration Manager has given the following information, which I will just read out. So the Economic Development Team supports local businesses in a variety of ways. So this includes access to expert information and advice about business rates, support with planning and licensing inquiries, for example, if a business wishes to apply for a change of use, commercial property search, so they can create bespoke reports that show the latest available commercial properties to buy or rent in Crawley, grant information, access to the Small Business Grant Scheme, COVID-19 business support grants, access to the various government support grants that are available at the moment in response to the pandemic, signposting to partner organisations, so support and information from a variety of local business organisations, for example, Coastal Capital Growth Hub, the Chamber of Commerce, etc. And finally, the Inward Investment Programme, which supports businesses looking to invest in or relocate to Crawley. So upon asking the Economic Regeneration Manager the kind of queries that they might receive from parade tenants about business advice or support, she mentioned that there are only a handful of these queries that come in from parade tenants. These are generally signposted towards the asset team. So there is kind of at the moment there is minimal contact directly with the parade tenants. However, information about the team's offering is not actively provided to the tenants when they take up the shop lease. But the manager mentioned that she would be open to contributing to something like that if that was a way in which the panel decided they'd like to go. Back to you.
Thank you, Jess, for that. I mean, I'd comment that I think that that's got the makings of a panel recommendation at some point in the future to perhaps broaden the, we're not doing recommendations tonight, obviously, but to broaden the visibility of the business and economic development team services and how they would complement the services provided by our assets manager and her team. Can I ask any members of the panel have any questions or comments on that update? I don't see anyone opening their video. No, okay. Right, so Jesse, if we could please proceed to the next update, which is that's Knowsley Borough Council, yes?
Thank you. So after the discussion that was had at the last meeting, while looking at the reviews done by other councils in the same field, I've had contact with the senior estate surveyor at Knowsley Council just to get a bit more information about the review that was done. The scrutiny review was in 2011 and the policy that was subsequently created was 2012. So some time ago, but fairly recently compared to some of the other reviews that have taken place. So he's just given me a brief overview, which I'm going to outline for panel members now. So Knowsley has 156 parade units. They currently have 1 vacancy. He told me they do have a very high uptake. And although there were several units returned to the council throughout the coronavirus pandemic, these have already been relet. The policy in 2012 was introduced because there were several community health concerns. There were antisocial behaviour and crime matters that were aiming to be dealt with. There were high rates of obesity in the area. There were problems with gambling addictions. There was a high usage of tanning beds and salons, which were deemed all to contribute to unhealthy lifestyles, and the council decided they wanted to take some action to tackle this. So what the policy implemented, as you may have read previously, is that no new leases on council-owned units are granted to bookmakers or to tanning salons. This also applies to changes of use. So existing units cannot apply for a change of use to become either of those usages that I just mentioned. He mentioned that this actually worked really well. There's obviously been some kind of pushback from certain members of the community about this, but he said generally it's been a positive step for the council. So the council, there was talk previously of encouraging traditional businesses to Crawley's neighbourhood parades, and Knowsley Council have also tried to incentivise this, the healthy traditional businesses. So this is done through financial incentivisation in the rental process. So, for example, if two offers come in for the same unit, one is a higher offer from, say, a hot food takeaway, and there is a lower offer from, for example, a greengrocer, the council would take a measured decision and take all the factors into account, but would still consider the lower offer by the greengrocer, and most likely, depending on circumstances, of course, opt to lease that unit to the healthier option for the lower rent. They do also try to avoid duplicating the usages on the same parades as our asset manager mentioned previously. So their letting process is done online. It's published through and advertised heavily through the council's social media. They have introduced a scoring process once offers are received. This is based on the business's perceived strengths and weaknesses. So this is things like the term of lease that's offered, the perceived contribution that the business would make to the community. And as I said previously, he did emphasise that the focus is on community value rather than financial value. However, the council won't accept anything below standard market rent. And that was something that he did emphasise. So as I mentioned, he did determine that the policy has been successful, has been useful to the council and to the community more widely as well. Their policy is also undergoing a minor kind of review, so we can remain in touch with their team and get some updates on their review as they go along as well. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jess. And I've got Councillor Ayling wishing to speak on this item. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a bit confused by a higher bid and a lower bid for different shop. You know, the shop, if depending on who it was made the bid. I thought it was a set rate for whoever rented. So, like, it was done per square metre, however big the shop was. I didn't realise that they could put a bid in for, you know, however much, and the lower bid or higher bid won. Because, as I say, I just thought it was, you know, the shop's that big, so it's that much per square metre, so that's how much you pay. Am I wrong with that?
Thank you. I can't speak for Crawley's policy, as I was just referring to Knowsley's policy. If Sue Bader could come in on this piece, just to clarify for Councillor Ayling.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're sort of right, Councillor Ayling. Basically, what Jess is talking about is when Knowsley is actually letting a property. So you put the property on the market and you look for offers, and at that point you will get offers at different rates. You get 30,000, you get 25,000, you get 15,000, and the different rates will be for different uses. And then once you've accepted one of those offers, say the 20,000 for the greengrocer, you can then analyse that rent on a rate per square foot. And then you would use that analysed rate per square foot to then assess the rents on other shops. For instance, the shops which are having rent reviews or lease renewals. An open market letting is a way of giving you the best evidence as to how the shops are performing, and it's that evidence which you then use to assess the rents on other shops. So you're sort of right. Yes, for rent reviews and lease renewals, you're looking for a rate per square foot, but that rate per square foot has come from the evidence produced by the open market letting.
So
thank you, Sue. Councillor Ayling.
Yeah, I was just going to come back on that. So could you get 3 people apply to rent a similar size unit, but because they're 3 different types of trading, they bid 3 different prices? So how do you know which one to take? Because, you know, if we're financially strapped like we are now, we could get it that we're taking the highest bid, which means we're getting 3 Pizza Huts, you know, fast food stores in one parade because they're the 3 highest bids. Could that happen? I mean, I didn't realise it was done like that. I thought it was just done by whoever put their bid. You know, I thought it was a price and you paid the price, and whoever got there, whoever like bought it first, like any other buying a house, got the shop or whatever it is they're going for.
Okay, thank you. And Sue, perhaps you could clarify on that.
The situation is, I mean, for instance, when we had the Langley Parade shop, we had 10 different bids coming in for many different uses. The highest bid financially was not a use we wanted, and we eventually took a use which was about the 3rd or 4th highest bid, because it's a balance, I think, as Knowsley do, a balance between the use and the rent that you're looking for. And even in our straitened times when, yes, the highest rent might be nice, as you say, we don't want 3 or 4 pizza shops on one parade. So it is a balance. It's not a case of taking the highest rent. It's a case of having the balance between the rent and the use, which is the best for that parade.
And
Yeah.
Can they appeal if you turn them down?
No.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I think if I can just say, I think what Sue has said really aligns with that sentence in the Knowsley briefing. Financial incentivisation is offered. The council accepts a lower offer from the greengrocery in favour of a high offer from a hot food takeaway. It's not quite as simple as that, as Sue's described. It depends on the particular parade in question and the existing balance of trades that are there. Okay, Councillor Peck, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ayling. Councillor Peck.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the way I see it, it seems to be quite an easy platform to use to find tenants, and I would imagine it's going to be quite cost efficient and simple to manage, and I think that's probably the aim. So I get it completely. So I just wanted to sort of add my 2 pence in that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. Can I just ask then? I think it's to you, Sue. I mean, the Knowsley experience. They pointed to what they called social difficulties with obesity, health, and suntanning studios. Do we have any similar issues regarding the 11 council-owned parades that we've alerted ourselves to?
No, I don't think we're quite on those sort of lines. We do have a few shops which do beauty, and some of those may have tanning beds in them. There aren't any. Well, there are uses we obviously wouldn't have, and but we don't sort of have a list, and I don't think we're maybe as prescriptive as Knowsley, and maybe we don't have the issues that Knowsley Council have in terms of the particular uses that they are saying they're not going to go with. They do mention, I think, vetting offices, and obviously that's they are a matter of bone of contention. Possibly we do have them on a number of the parades, and I think there are issues potentially with them, but you know, it is something which are used by local people. So yeah, we don't have the issues I think that Knowsley have with certain of their uses.
Okay, no, that's reassuring to know. Any other members of the panel on this update, please? If you can turn your video on if you'd like to. Not seeing anyone. Okay, so we'll go to the third update, which is around the business directory and website information, which we discussed at our last meeting. So Jess, please.
Thank you. So again, this is not an action, but a discussion that was had about the publicity of neighbourhood shops. So there was in January 2021, the business directory called It's Local was sent live on the Crawley Borough Council website. The directory lists a number of shops and other local services in Crawley. You can access this through the website under the community pages, I believe. The directory has been publicised through social media posts on Twitter and on Facebook when it was first launched. Otherwise, it's just been publicised via the website. There is also, perhaps more relevant to the work of the panel, a new page under the culture section of the Crawley Council website, which gives details of specifically of neighbourhood shops. So this currently has 30 listings. The listings include the names of the shops, contact details, opening hours, and a brief summary of the services or goods provided. And the communications team who were in charge of this project, we followed up with them just to ask the number of shops or parade tenants who didn't respond or were not involved. And there were, although we couldn't get an exact number, there were several, and there were communication challenges as well. The biggest one here was that the communications team was finding it quite hard to get hold of parade tenants, as many of the shops are and have been closed due to the lockdown since December. However, I was assured that when lockdown begins to ease and shops begin to open again and it's safe to do so, the communications team will be getting back in touch with parade tenants and updating that website and hopefully keeping it constantly updated into the future as well. And in this communication with the team, it was just asked whether there was any kind of further comments were given about the running of the parades in general. And the comms team said that there were no complaints made regarding the parades unit in their communications that were had, but there were positive comments saying that the business owners appreciated the help of the promotion and the publicity on the website. So just hand back to the chair there for discussion on that.
Thank you, Jess, and invite members of the panel, and Councillor Peck first of all, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've looked at the business directory website, and it's quite impressive. It seems easy to follow. Without getting into the logistics of the website, do we know how many people are literally going to the website, clicking on the website, and how are we monitoring it? Are we seeing an increase? Is it fluctuating on a daily basis? And can we see by adding more businesses, we can see more people being drawn to the website? It'd be interesting to know how we're monitoring the usefulness of this website. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Peck. And I think, would you be able to respond on that, Jess? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. That's not information that I have to hand, but I can definitely get in touch with the communications team and ask them for that, and possibly to keep tabs on that, to see if, as you say, if it is updated with more listings in the future, to see if the views kind of increase alongside that. We can report that back to the next panel, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think it's a useful piece of work that's gone on here, and I believe it's been undertaken by an apprentice as well, hasn't it? So I think that's a bit of a plus as well, really. Yeah. Any other comments from panel members or any questions? Yeah, I was just thinking that we're on a kind of expansion course with this, as we can contact more and more businesses as they open up and as they're available. So I think we've got a role as elected members to probably publicise this a bit. So through our social media feeds, and I would suggest also putting this into Crawley Live, this facility, so that businesses and neighbourhood parade businesses are aware, and also in our member information bulletin to do that, and possibly as well something we can put in our community notice boards, just to advertise the advertising that is available, so as to speak. Would that be okay, colleagues? I'll assume it is, unless anyone switches on and says differently. Okay. Right. Thank you very much for those updates. I think our next item is on the public consultation arrangements, and on this item, we've got Adam O'Sullivan, who's joined us at quite short notice, and he introduced himself earlier. There is a set of draft questions that have gone out, and they're on the agenda, as you can see. And so really what I'd like to do now is to go to that and invite panel members, first of all, to look at the two headings. The first heading is parade tenants questions. The second is questions for everyone. It's at Appendix A, page 11 of the agenda. Can I invite panel members to comment first of all upon the suggested parade tenants questions, the first set of questions? Any panel members like to comment on those questions? No, I don't. Oh, yes, Councillor Mughali. Councillor Mughali, you're muted, I'm afraid. Yeah, there we go.
Sorry about that. Just looking at the questions, they're all open questions. I think that's what they're, open-ended questions. So they all need like somebody to do more explanation and write a bit more. And wouldn't it be good if we had some yes and no questions as well?
Okay. No, thank you for that. And I can say I had a little bit of informal feedback from Adam O'Sullivan, who I'll invite in a moment, on the same vein, really. I mean, sometimes you need some yes/no responses. Possibly. I'll give you an example of this. Question 1 there says, before taking on your parade unit, what business support advice? But no, were you given any business support advice? Is a better opening position? And then you take a yes or no, and only then do you ask for more detail. So it's like you suggest, you have a kind of closed question to open, and then a more open question if it's in response to the closed question, if that makes sense. And that's some of the advice that Adam would probably support. Does that align with what you're saying? Oh,
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
does.
Councillor Lunnan.
I must say, I do find the question about accounting a bit strange.
Okay,
I don't know what the context is to it, but I don't know why you'd be asking that.
Well, I mean, this is, you know, I'm very open to discussion upon it, and you know, I drafted these, so you know, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
Well, I'm just thinking,
I welcome comments, but
if I was a parade owner, it might feel like you were challenging my competence with that kind of question.
I understand the point. I suppose the objective of the question really was to, I suppose, determine if anyone needed any help with that particular discipline, rather, and it perhaps could be put in a different way. Because I suppose, you know, how do you, and I've never run a business, but how do you know with certainty to what extent you're running a deficit over a financial year or running a profit, unless you've got some method of accounting that you feel confident about?
Yeah, I can see where you're trying to get. I think that maybe the phrasing of it could be softened, because it just seems like at the moment we're going, are you doing any accounting? Blithering idiots. Which obviously we don't want to come across saying that.
Thank you for the feedback, Councillor Lull, and we can certainly modify in response to that feedback. I think it's a fair comment. There's always scope for being diplomatic in the way you ask a question, isn't there? Yeah. Can I invite Adam? Oh no, Councillor Magali first. Yeah. Indicate.
No, maybe it's best we listen from the expert. He might be able to answer what I was thinking or wanting to ask.
Okay, I'll invite Adam in. Yes, Adam, please come in with your expertise on, you know, how to ask the right questions in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Councillor Lanza mentioned, I did kind of give my thoughts initially on the consultation questions. It can be a bit of an art. So with question 3 on the approach to accounting, it's not, I don't know how I'd ask that off the top of my head, but it's definitely something that can be made, put more diplomatically. And yeah, so we do have the option, we might go into it later. We can give almost predetermined answers if we want to narrow it down to what we want specifically, as opposed to with an open question, the topic can be deviated from. So if we can have options that people tick, it's generally more useful for us at the end when we're sort of looking at the answers.
Okay, I mean, thank you for that, Adam. And just to, as we're working through questions 1, or just to step back slightly, questions 1 and 2, you know, Adam suggested that we start with a yes/no closed answer, and then if yes, you give more detail. And I think per Councillor Lunnon's comment, Councillor Magali's comment, and Adam's comment, we should go away and reword question 3, probably with a list of options, and use helpful language with that question, and then submit back to the panel by email. I suggest all edits just for approval in that way, rather than do micro editing on a live meeting, if that's okay. But the comments are well made. Thank you. The question 4 on that first set is, please describe your experience of the operation of council rent reviews. Now that could be kept as an open questions, or we could add some options to that as well. I suggest perhaps we should have some options and then invite the respondent to elaborate on the option they've selected. I just put that out there, so that sounds reasonable. If not, please indicate if you've got any other thoughts. I think it's a more agreeable way of presenting the question. And at question 5 in the first set, what would be your view of a regular council questionnaire, and at what frequency? So similarly, we could have an agree, disagree, or support, not support. And then if you agree, disagree, then elaborate on, you know, what frequency or other options. And so that's a suggestion. As with everything I'm reading out, please indicate think something differently. Question 6, what is your view of the council's maintenance responsibilities and your own? Again, it's suggested we list options for that, and I think that's a pretty sound thing to do. Number 7, does your let include a flat or maisonette? And again, if we have a yes, no closed response to begin with, and then if yes, we can go into further options. So for example, occupied, unoccupied or rented out. So we get a bit more information from our question. Question 8, you know, it might be seen in a similar vein to the accounting one. It might be too personal, but are you able to operate profitably? And that would be presumably a yes, no one, but you might think that that's too much of a probe, but people don't have to answer these questions. It's entirely up to them. And obviously the data will be treated in accordance with the Global Data Protection Regulations, GDPR. Councillor Ayling. You'll wait for your red box to get around the screen.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. That's okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a couple of issues with that question. I mean, one, if you're not profitable, then you won't be renting the shop. You know, you'd probably let your business go and move on. But are you going to admit that you're not profitable? Because it's not going to look good if you're putting, oh, are you profitable, and you put no. It doesn't look good on the person that's writing no. So I don't really see what we gain by that either. So what do we do with that information? Oh, they're not profitable, so okay, we'll put someone in there that is. I don't think we're allowed to do that unless they hand it back. So what is the benefit for the council of knowing whether they're profitable or not? And they might be profitable today and not profitable tomorrow because of COVID. So they may be a really profitable company, and then all of a sudden they've got to close because of shutdown. So I don't know whether or not that needs to be a bit more specific than that, or whether that question needs to be there at all. Because, as I say, I don't know what the council will do with that information if they're not profitable.
Thank you, Councillor Ayling. I mean, it's a good point about, you know, collecting data needs a purpose, clearly, and you make a valid point, I think, about you can be profitable one year and not profitable the next. I don't fully agree with the idea that you would move away if you were unprofitable, because you might be unprofitable for a certain period of time, but you take a longer view about your tenancy than a year or whatever. But in terms of the reasoning behind the question was to try and determine if the parades are a kind of sustainable and vibrant environment in the way they're managed to support profitable businesses that would wish to stay. That was the reasoning behind it. But I certainly understand the points you made. Councillor Magali. I'll wait for the red box.
Yeah, we would also probably want to know how long they've been tenants, you know, because that question, you know, to somebody who's been with us for 5 years or 10 years or 2 years, that the answer might vary. So I think among our questions, we would want to know how long they've been with us, I think. But did I miss that question? Yeah.
No, thank you. I think that's a good idea. That's easy to add and a valid question. But I do feel on the other question that Councillor Ayling challenged a little bit. I think she has a point about that, and probably it's not reasonable. It's not worthwhile to ask on the profitability.
Didn't mean to seem rude, but
No. It's a perfect valid, you know, to challenge what's here. So can I just check that I would propose to lose question 8, but to put in a question as suggested by Councillor Magali around how long a tenancy has been so far. Would that be in order with the panel? Can I just check if anyone's got a different view? No, I don't see it. Can I just check on that first question set to parade tenants? Are there any further questions that panel members would like to table?
Could I just please ask Adam to come in here? I know there was discussion about mentioning whether the respondent was from a certain parade, just to kind of filter the responses a bit more.
Thank you.
If he has an opinion on that.
That's a good point. Adam, please. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so in a conversation with Jess, obviously I don't know the full scope of how anonymous we want the survey to be, but for both the public and tenant survey, whether we want them to indicate what neighbourhood parade they are either running a business from, or which neighbourhood parade they use for their shopping.
Okay, thank you, Adam. I mean, my gut feel, and I'll test it with the panel, is that we should seek that information. I mean, all questions are voluntary, of course, but it would be informative to know that, to get a view about each of the 11 parades. Can I check? Councillor Peck, you're indicating there.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think we should check, and then it would be up to them if they wish to provide that information. I think we should seek. I think that's quite important, because there may be, on average, that people would be willing to provide that information, and in I suppose there will be people that will not be willing to provide that information. But I think we should give choice, and we should ask that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other panel members, please, on that particular point? No. Can I just ask again of panel members, do you have any other questions that you would like to table to parade tenants? Don't see any. Okay, we'll move on to what we're calling the questions to everyone. And the first question there in the draft, if I read that to begin with, is: have you had any experience of antisocial behaviour on the neighbourhood parades in the past 12 months? And there's a suggestion there that we use a similar approach, in that having a yes/no closed answer to begin with, and if yes, invite the respondent to elaborate on that. Yeah. Any comments on that question? Don't see anyone. There's question 2 is, and I think Adam had a comment on this, but who would you contact to report antisocial behaviour, and how would you do this? And the objective of the question was to test knowledge of the communication channels that were available and how effectively we were promoting them. But I think, Adam, you had a comment on that one. Can I just check with you?
Yes, thank you. So the comment was that question could potentially be incorporated into question 1. So if the responder answers yes to question 1, and then it goes to what their experience of antisocial behaviour was, we could add an additional sub question, which was: who did you report, or did you report it? And if so, who to? Okay,
yeah, I see. I can see how it could clearly be incorporated into question 1. I think that's a reasonable route to take. Get more information. Again, Councillor Ayling on that. Thanks. Wait for the red box. Okay, you're on. Yeah.
If this question's going to everyone, rather than if I got this question, then I haven't had any experience of antisocial behaviour, but I might know how to report it. So how would I answer that question? Because if I'm not in the question 1 where it says, have you had any antisocial behaviour, experienced any antisocial behaviour, if I tick no, that's the end of it. So I'm not actually, you're not finding out the information that I actually know how to report it, even though I haven't had that experience. So how would you find that out? How would you question that? How could you put that into a question?
At the top of my head, I know it's a good question. I think you would probably put the reporting mechanism question first. Yeah. And then
yeah, so you'd have to have, that's what I'm saying is, you'd have to have the question in there of, do you know how to report antisocial behaviour, even if you haven't experienced it.
Absolutely.
The way Adam was explaining it was, that was taking that option out, because you were only explaining it if you'd reported it.
Yeah, okay, I'll let Adam come back on that. I think it's, I understand the point you're making, Adam.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it is a legitimate question. One thing I thought of when I did see the questions is there is a annual, I think it's called the Safety and Crime Partnership, I believe, which is run by my colleague Trish Emmons in Community Services, and they do ask that question in their surveys. So I don't know if we could either use the results from that survey to inform us of how people do report it, or know where to go, and then we could potentially move that question out. But the question itself is fine. It's whether we actually need it to be in there, if we have that already answered in a different survey.
Well, thank you, Adam. Therefore, if we had that answered in a different survey, our action would be to incorporate that, bundle those responses with the responses to our survey. If we haven't got it there, I think we need to work questions 1 and 2 together in the way suggested by Councillor Ayling, so that we ask the contact channel question whether or not somebody has experienced antisocial behaviour. Does that sound okay, Councillor Ayling?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you for that. So question 3, how safe do you feel on the neighbourhood parades in the daytime and in the evening? And there's a suggested we can elaborate the response to that by putting in options, so like daytime safe, evening safe, relatively safe, unsafe, or whatever it is. So just to give more options. So if we're okay with that, or if we're not okay with that, or want to do something different, let me know. 4, what is your view of the general tidiness of the neighbourhood parades? And again, with that question, we can list options: tidy, untidy, or maybe a 5-point scale, so we can adapt that question to make it more likely to be answered, one would hope. Okay, I'm pausing a little. Question 5, should the council seek to influence the makeup of the neighbourhood parades in the interests of the environment and healthy eating? So first of all, we could make that a closed question, yes or no, and then if yes or no, please describe the reasons for your answers. And of course, that's a question pretty much triggered by the Knowsley Council experience there, just to get people's opinion on that kind of issue. Question 6, how much do you think? Oh, Councillor Morgali. You're muted, yeah.
Sorry, but maybe if we could have options on there on how we could influence, should the council seek to influence the makeup? How would we do that? So maybe we'd have options on there, A, B, C, D. I don't know.
Thank you for that. So how would the respondent like us to approach that? Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can do that. Right, thank you. And we can make a change in that way. Then question 6. how much do you think that neighbourhood parade rents contribute to the running of Crawley Borough Council services? And this is in there just to test awareness, and I just think it's useful for residents to, and we can give a range. We can, and that would be the suggested amendment to that question. We give a range of options. Like Councillor Peter Smith informed us of what the actual figure was, but I'm not going to give that figure out again. So, okay. Question 7. How have your shopping habits changed during the COVID-19 pandemic? For example, has your use of the neighbourhood parades increased, decreased, stayed the same? So we could add options. We could add options to that one. But I think Adam might have had a comment on that question. Can I just ask you if you had an additional comment on that question?
Yes, is similar to my previous comment with the question further up. Is we did do a coronavirus business survey on how businesses have been affected by the pandemic and how their trade has either increased or decreased during it. So again, it's similar. The question itself is fine. It's whether we kind of want to ask that again or use the data that we have from a previous survey.
Okay, I mean, I think again the action is just to take a look at that data and see if it's kind of good enough for our purposes. If it is, to use that rather than ask people all over again. I think that would be the right approach. Item 8, question 8. We've got, what is your view of the range of trades on your local neighbourhood parade? I think that's a really important question, and again, it's suggested that we list some options there. For example, it's well balanced, not well balanced. This is missing, that's missing. That kind of response that we would be interested in knowing. I think we have some parades with a really good balance, I must say, at the moment. Number 9. What ideas or suggestions do you have for the council to improve the management of neighbourhood parades? I think that's necessarily open because it's a big question potentially, and we should be open in inviting a range of opinions about that and not be shy of that. I don't see anyone indicating, but can I just check that on the everyone questions, can I just, Councillor Morgali? You're muted again, sorry. Don't worry.
With question number 9, we probably would ask the same question to the parade owners, how they think we could improve, maybe not management, but maybe the management of, I don't know. They might have ideas on how they would want us to improve or communicate or make it better, I don't know.
Thank you for that. Of course, the parade tenants will get that question. Yeah, they will get question 9. Yeah, if that's what you meant. Yeah.
Yes, that's because it's separate. It's not on their set of questions.
No, but if everyone's getting these questions, so they will be included in that group of everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
So they will get that question. Can I ask panel members, are there any questions that you would like to ask to those that we're proposing to ask to everyone? No, don't see. Well, thanks everyone for your input on that. And what I'm going to do now is clearly at a previous meeting we discussed the method of consultation, which we use social media given current circumstances and also community notice boards. But can I just check that with the 2 question sets, we're broadly happy as a panel with what's been proposed, and Jess is recording this in the minutes, with the amendments that have come through from Adam and from panel members? If not, can you please indicate? Okay. I think we're okay to go away and redraft and circulate amongst the panel via email. Great, thank you. Item 7, dates of future meetings. Before we go into that, I wanted to make some suggestions for the content of future meetings. I think we're kind of at the stage, we got that additional information out of Knowsley, and it's very interesting that when you look at the total number of units, it's not too dissimilar from our own, some of their practices. I just think it would be useful to invite an officer, perhaps an elected member as well, just to be interviewed by the panel if they can spare the time. And secondly, yeah, I think we're at that stage where we need witness sessions to come on stream, and secondly, to arrange a witness session for some parade tenants as well, and that would therefore be 2 witness sessions, which I think, you know, could be quite, how should I put it, engaging and energetic sessions. Yeah. Can I just seek feedback on that suggestion from panel members, please? Councillor Peck.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think I echo exactly your sentiments. I think it's a very good idea. I think it will be quite a big eye-opener, actually. I think speaking to the tenants themselves, or having the ability to speak to the tenants themselves, and to get their view is very important, because at the end of the day, it's for the tenants, isn't it, or people who reside on the parades or near the parades, etc. Plus the businesses. So I think that's a very good idea, and it's also making them a part of the system, making them to have a voice, to have a say, for us to listen, and to take it back and to see what we can do. So yeah, absolutely agree with you there, Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you, Councillor Peck. Are there any other panel members wish to comment on that suggestion? No. Okay. Well, I'll take that as agreed, that we commence some approaches to cause those witness sessions to happen. Just a quick comment about the elections. We're going into Purda, I think, on the 29th of March, because there's a triple set of elections, and therefore the I should have said earlier, the actual consultation cannot start realistically until after the elections. Can I just check amongst panel members, are there any other items you'd like to see, perhaps other witness sessions on the next but one meeting of this panel? Can you indicate if you can think of any that you'd like to see at this stage? It might be that the next meeting generates further ideas for witness sessions, of course. Councillor Peck.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just something that's come to mind. I don't know. We've spoken about witnesses, but what about staff who regularly visit the parades, who go there on behalf of Crawley Borough Council? Maybe the bins, maybe the cleaning, etc., etc., and to get feedback from them. And I think that may be, and also a very good idea, because I assume that they will see things differently than the residents will see, and if we can incorporate all different visions to the point of having this panel, I think that would provide great feedback and great knowledge, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Peck. Yes, interesting suggestion. Jess, I'm wondering who we would invite for that purpose. Would that be head of community, perhaps, again?
Yeah, I think maybe not the head of community services herself, but I can definitely get in touch with her and ask who the correct person would be. There's also the community wardens, of course, who the head of community services did kind of speak on behalf of at our previous meeting, but there may be, if the panel is interested, maybe talking specific to the community wardens. But we can ask the community services team.
I think Councillor Peck was also coming from the perspective of the general appearance of the parades, you know, and our people who, Councillor Peck, if you want to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, actually. More the merrier, so to speak. So anyone who takes a daily visit or part of their job, part of their role, I think it's a good idea to seek their views as well. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that. So I mean that could take us into the area of amenity services, couldn't it? I think. Yeah. So if we reference that. Any other suggestions for witness sessions, or indeed any other item on the next panel agenda? No, I don't see any. Now, in terms of dates of next meetings, we've got a few suggestions here. Can I test on 23rd of June first of all? Can any panel member not make that? I'm seeing that we all can make the 23rd of June. Councillor Peck.
Yes, sorry to be a bit of a pain here. I've looked at the dates and quite a few dates there. Is there, whilst it's probably good to do it now, is there a way, or can we maybe just defer with those dates until tomorrow, maybe, if that is possible?
Well, I think we can. And I think it is probably better, in fact, to do it by email tomorrow. Just recirculate those dates amongst panel members. Could we do that, Jess? Is that okay? Yeah, just to get people to feedback explicitly. Then I think that would be good. Right. Yeah, because I think we're going to need a few more meetings. Councillor Lunnan.
This might be an obvious question, but do they clash with any other council meetings? Because of course we don't know what committees we're on yet.
Jess, can I just check that with you?
Thank you. So the dates that were given was based on the council's calendar of meetings, so there should be no clashes in there with those. And it's also takes into account group meetings if there are any in the upcoming months. Just something else, as Councillor Lanza mentioned, we will be going into the pre-election sensitivity period at the end of March. So if the consultation begins after the election, the beginning of May, we're aiming at the suggested dates begin in June to give time for those consultation results to come back, for there to be analysis of those and to bring them to the panel, as well as perhaps having time to invite parade tenants as witnesses at that meeting on the back of the consultation results. So no, to get back to the original question, there should be no clashes with those.
Okay, thank you, Jess. And Councillor Ayling.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, I was going through the diary and I thought, yeah, I'm free on that night, I'm free on that night, I'm free on that night, I'm free on that night. And then it suddenly dawned to me, I haven't got anything in my diary at all. And I thought, no, because it's after the election. So I was just going to make the same comment that we can't say whether or not we've got a free diary because a diary has not been made up yet.
Yeah, yes, it has though, Councillor Ayling. It was embedded within a member's information bulletin.
Yeah, but we don't know if we're still on those.
Or would we be here?
We don't know when we're.
But the dates here avoid everything in the calendar. Yeah.
So we should be okay then.
Yeah. But what might be a good idea, Jess, is in the light of this meeting, is to just send out the calendar of meetings to provide reassurance. Yeah, if we can do that. I mean, you know, outside of the member information bulletin. Yeah, but it's easy. It's easy to miss when it's embedded in that information bulletin.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, if it doesn't clash with any council meetings, I'm okay for all those dates.
Excellent. Thank you. But what we'll do, we'll send out the calendar of meetings and the suggested meeting dates after this meeting. Yeah, we'll do it that way. Then okay. We can be confident that we're not double booking, or worse still, triple booking.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just a question after Councillor Ayling brought that up. So what happens if we're not here? If I'm not here, for example?
Well, I mean, June. Well, there will be an appointment of another elected member.
And would they automatically take over this role?
No, there would be the group leaders. If anyone were not present, the group leaders would be invited to submit nominee for those people no longer with us, and then they would be appointed to the panel via the Overview and Scrutiny Commission.
Okay.
So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. No, thanks for the question. And right, that brings us to the end of our main agenda. There's no supplemental agenda, so I'd just like to thank the officers for all their work in getting us very well briefed, and all panel members for their contributions this evening. I think we charted a way forward, had an interesting discussion. I just thank all those people watching as well. And with that, I close the meeting at 20 to 8, I think, and wish you. Councillor Peck, are you indicating?
No, I just want to say thanks to the officers tonight for the information that they have provided. It's been very knowledgeable, Chair.
Good. Thank you for that feedback. And okay, well, in that case, good night, everyone, and see you again soon. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you and good night.